Hey, my name is Steven. I thought it would be a fun experiment to pin the old king, the Canon 5D Mark III, against the new king, the Canon R5. I have the Canon EF 16-35 f4 lens on the 5D. It does have image stabilization. And on the R5, I have the Canon RF 15-35 f2.8. This lens also has image stabilization in an f2.8. It's nuts. The R5 also has in-body stabilization, but we're going to be doing tripod work, so that's not going to matter here. And we're going to be shooting both of these lenses at f7.1 just to make it fair. So let's take some pictures with these two cameras and compare them in post. So now that we have both images in Lightroom, let's take a look. So first one up is the 5D. So the 5D Mark III. This is a picture of a 7D, but the picture was taken by a 5D Mark III. I got the settings up here, if you want to take a look at that. Yeah, it looks really clean. You can even see specks of dust. Like, it gets a little pixely, but it's there. Pretty clear, and in no real world environment are you going to be cropping in this much. That's a huge crop. So realistically, incredible image quality, very sharp. It handles noise so well. Like, I'm so impressed with how this camera handles noise, and it's an older camera. I don't recall the exact age of the 5D Mark III, but there's a 5D Mark IV, so there was a successor to that, and then there's been the R and the R5 since. So yeah, the 5D Mark III is doing an amazing job for a slightly older camera. Full frame, 22 point something megapixel. I want to say 22.3. Don't quote me on that, fact check me, but it's doing really well. And with the 16-35 lens, 16-35 f4 lens, looks really good. You got some vignetting in the corners here, but overall this is a really sharp image. You can even see the battery packs that I used to weigh down that flat lay. So yeah, no, incredibly sharp, looks good. Let's take a look at the R5. Okay, let's zoom in. So there's that speck of dust. Yeah, it gets a little pixely. Still gets a little pixely. It's definitely sharper. You're getting a lot more detail. Yeah, you're getting a lot more detail. It's less noisy. Even though it's same settings, same ISO, it is less noisy. I see less overall noise in comparison. Okay, yeah, so it is definitely sharper. Let's take a look at that battery pack there. Okay, that, and then you can't really tell over here, honestly. Like when you start getting that close, it's harder to tell. Let's zoom all the way back out here. Both are good. Both are really good. When it comes to overall sharpness, let's go back to the R5, zoom in. Notice the sharpness, notice the noise. Let's go to this. Notice the sharpness, notice the noise. There is more noise. Sharpness is there though. The sharpness is there. The 5D is honestly incredibly sharp, and the autofocus it was spot on. It hit that Canon logo. It looks really good. The big difference you're going to notice with these cameras and with these lenses is that yeah, going back and forth, it's almost a little tough to see the difference. There is definitely a color difference. I'm sure if we edited these to look similar though, you wouldn't be able to tell. It's hard to distinguish. It's hard to distinguish the two. I hate to say it, but it is. But the big difference you're going to find is low light performance. The R5, it should do better in low light, being a newer camera. That being said, there's that whole less megapixel thing. And the 5D it's really good. I'm actually surprised. I'm taken back by how good it's actually comparing to a modern day mirrorless R5. The R5 gives me better autofocus. It's incredible autofocus. The 5D is pretty good. That's the R5 there. There's the 5D. But it's not the eye detection autofocus, the eye tracking, the animal eye focus. The R5 has all of that. The R5 has 45 megapixels, which you can tell here. Like, you can zoom in more on the R5 and it still holds the image together, whereas on the 5D we zoom in, it starts to fall apart a little. It does start to fall apart. When we look at the fringing, it's not too bad on the 16. Let's take a look at the 15. It's better on the 15. You see less of that green magenta look on the 15. So the 15 is better when it comes to the color fringing, sharpness. They are both really good at f7.1. That being said, the 15-35 will be able to do sharper images at f4 than the f4 16-35 can. And it also has the ability to go to f2.8, which is very handy in low light situations. So the 15-35 is a overall winner of a lens. They're both image stabilized. You don't have to choose between IS and 2.8 anymore. You get both with this lens. So I'm in love with that 15-35 lens. 100% worth the upgrade for me. When it comes to image quality, if you're just like a landscape photographer and you're shooting f7.1.11, that kind of range, and just sticking to that, honestly, save your money. Maybe save your money and buy the EF 16-35, because it seems to do really good. And if we just turned on profile correction, let's just turn on profile correction for the 16. Get rid of that vignetting. Yeah, it looks clean. It looks really good. Like, as a landscape photographer, this 5D and this 16-35 would do the job. It would do the job really well. And again, if they don't sell, I'm almost happy to keep them as like a huck around camera, because it's older equipment. I don't necessarily need to care for it the same as my R5, because the R5 has a little more to it. I'm so impressed. You do notice the difference with megapixels. You do notice that falling apart, but really, I'm astonished with how good the 5D did. When you compare the 5D with that EF 16-35 and that R5 with the 15-35, it's astonishing. Canon, amazing job with your cameras. Didn't mean it, Mike. Canon, amazing job with your cameras. I'm thoroughly impressed with how well they hold up over time. And I hope that my R5 holds up as well as this 5D Mark III does, because that's incredible. That's absolutely nuts how good that 5D is. Let's turn on the correction for the R5. Yeah, absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. The untrained eye would not be able to tell the difference, honestly. The untrained eye would not be able to tell the difference between these two photos. And I would only be able to tell if I were to zoom in really close, check the megapixels, because it definitely falls apart sooner with the 5D than it does with the R5. You can do more with the R5. And the fringing. So when you look at the fringing here, the 15-35 is amazing. That's incredible. When we look at the fringing, it's a little bit more there, but it did a really good job still. Honestly, so like the noise, I think, is the other thing. I notice a little bit more noise with the 5D than I do with the R5, but honestly, the untrained eye looking between these two photos would not be able to tell you which one was taken on an R5 and which one was taken on a 5D Mark III. I would put money on it, honestly. I might actually edit these up and I'm going to post it to Instagram or something and see if people can tell the difference which one was taken on which, because this is nuts to me. So if you find this interesting, this comparison between these photos interesting, I mean, thanks so much. Like, comment, subscribe, all that lovely stuff. I'm just posting this for my own learning experience because I wanted to see how a old 5D Mark III handled compared to brand new R5, state-of-the-art, amazing, 120 frames per second, 4K, 45 megapixel eye detection, animal, focus, does everything. It's an all-in-one camera, and that's why I bought it. That's why I bought the R5. It's an incredible video camera. It's an incredible photography camera. It does absolutely everything I need. I can slap an external recorder on there, and I have unlimited record time with RAW, and honestly, the R5 is the perfect camera for me. The 5D camera, perfect. Absolutely perfect for anybody looking to do photography. When it comes to video, you may want a mirrorless. I really like the mirrorless cameras when it comes to video. The R, I love the R even. It's incredible. But if you're just doing photography, like legitimately, the 5D Mark III might be worth a buy. If you can find one used for a good price, like under $1,000 Canadian, snag it up. If you have a crop sensor camera like a Rebel and you want to get into full frame, look into the 5D Mark III. It's an affordable entry into full frame cameras. And yeah, the F4 glass, the EF F4 glass, the 16 to 35, 24 to 70, the 70-200. I love all of them. I have all of them. I have the second version of the 70-200. They're all really sharp. They all have a bit of vignetting. They're all a lot like this lens. But like, I kind of like having all those characteristics too. So I'm probably not going to sell my 70-200 at all. I'm going to keep it because it's light, even if I do upgrade to the RF 2.8 70-200. But yeah, I cannot suggest the EF F4 glass enough, as well as the Canon 5D Mark III as like your entry into professional photography. Like if you're just wanting to get into professional photography, if you're just wanting to get into like full frame sensors and like doing high quality client work, look into these cameras, look into these lenses, because wow, I'm blown away that the 5D is able to hold up so good to the R5. Like the R5 has a beat. The R5 definitely has a beat, especially when you get closer. Like I have more cropping power with the R5. So the R5 has more, definitely has more contrast. So look at the blacks, look at the deepness of this compared to the 5D. So that's where we notice the difference. That's where we notice the big difference is, I did, like initially I'm like, yeah, the 5D's color, it's really good. It is really good. It is really good, and I could edit around this no problem. But when you look at it, you know, just a little bit edited, both of them with the same edits, same settings. Yeah, no, the R5 definitely has blacker blacks, whiter whites. It seems to be a little more color correct. And the 5D looks really good. It looks stylized. I love how it handles noise. I love how it looks. But it doesn't quite hold up to the image quality of the R5. And that could be the lenses too, 15 to 35, 16 to 35. Both of them are different. Both of them are processed differently. Both of them will handle color slightly differently. So this isn't a perfect comparison. This is just me having fun with a old camera and a new camera, and being blown away at the fact that the old camera is pretty dang good. And if I didn't know better, there's a chance I would have gotten it wrong if I were to guess. So, yeah, no, 100%. I'm gonna post these. Online. Take a look at them and let me know what you think. Thanks so much for watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff, and I'm gonna stop rambling and shut this thing off now. Peace.